The learning outcome of this module is to understand ways to see the bigger picture and think about goals in the long term. Let's get started.
We're going to talk about the action steps to see the bigger picture and think about goals in the long term. Let's start by defining strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is a broad, visionary way of thinking that focuses on long-term goals. Strategic thinking is a skill to imagine and plan for the future. Try it. Thinking strategically about your job, write down a few sentences to answer each of the following questions that I'm about to ask you. First, how does my job fit into the larger organization? Which departments of people are most impacted by what I do in my job? How are the trends in my industry impacting my job? And how do I think my job will be different in the next 3 to 5 years? In order to think strategically, you need to maintain a broad perspective. Strategic thinking begins with a broad perspective, so keep your eyes open to what's happening in your organization, its different departments and units, but also in the outside world, like your industry, the economy in general, what political things are happening, and international trends. One approach to do this is to, quote unquote, go to the balcony, or imagine you're looking in on the situation as an observer. What do you see? How do different pieces fit and work together? Another approach to this is systems thinking, or the ability to see the whole in addition to its parts. Taking a systems thinking approach, such as looking at the patterns the whole makes instead of looking at the individual parts, allows us to see patterns and relationships we didn't know existed. To broaden your perspective, you can learn about other groups or functions in your organization. Talk to employees in other geographic areas. Check in with your colleagues on a regular basis to learn about current successes and challenges they face. And make a point to continuously improve your knowledge about other parts of your organization, the market that you work in, and various customer groups. And then ask friends or acquaintances in other industries the same kinds of questions so that you can get their perspective and build to your broader perspective. You also need to schedule time for strategic thinking. Sometimes we can't think strategically because we're caught up in day-to-day tasks. If this is the case, set aside 30 minutes a day for strategic thinking. Put it on your calendar. Think about what you're currently working on and then play the what if game, where you're asking yourself, what would happen if? What if our sales were cut in half? Or what would be my best response to that? Or what if I suddenly had a new budget? How would I use it? It's a great way to challenge your assumptions. You can also play the what if game with the team that you're working with or your unit. In addition, make sure that for each project or focus area that you have, you look 3 to 5 years into the future. When you do this, ask yourself things like, what could we accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years? What threats do we see? What opportunities are there? What trends do we see happening in our industry? And then set one longer term goal for each of your current priorities. Don't forget to think about your long-term vision of your career too. Where would you like to be in 3 to 5 years? What do you want? What don't you want? How is where you are right now and the actions you can take right now going to help you get to where you want to go? These are all critical strategic thinking questions. Next, find a mentor. You can learn other strategic thinking approaches and find a mentor. Identify someone you know who is skilled at looking at issues new and different ways, and then ask your person what their view is of your current organizational issues. Ask them to talk through how they arrived at their conclusion and opinions. Your goal in doing this is to understand how their brain processes information when they think strategically. To further learn about your organization's strategy, sit in on a strategic planning meeting. Learn the performance indicators your organization tracks and follow them over time. Learn what it means for your organization when these indicators fluctuate. If you don't know, you can ask your strategy mentor. Finally, find someone who sees the world very differently than you do and frequently discuss your views on various topics. And emphasize to them that you're going to them specifically because you want another perspective. Not only will this encourage them to talk to you, but it may spark clear differences in the conversation. Last, learn new tricks. To increase your skills in strategic thinking, you need to teach your brain some new tricks. Read some new books. Go out and get some strategy books. Learn about game theory. Learn about how past leaders have approached strategic thinking. What you're trying to do is you're trying to find new ways to think about strategy and how they can apply to the industry you're working in or the job that you have right now.
We hope that you found this module on strategic thinking useful. Remember, there's a complete transcript of this video below, and there are downloadable takeaways that you can use offline. Also, leave us a comment below about how you're a more strategic thinker today, or leave us a comment about how we can make this section better. Thanks.